it's just, it's weird. It's just the sun.
That's your responsibility.
See, that's not the sun.
And hellish aspect of life,
Seems like it's going through the
and the question
sun.
is that transformative? And one answer
You
is
see a UFO in that thing?
It's that black dot.
you can tell the character of that spirit, determining how much
Showing up on my
See it?
phone. Yeah, I do.
very interesting.
I see it. It's just not showing up on the phone.
This notion, but life is going to throw its catastrophes at you. Sometimes even if you're innocent, and if you're not prepared, in faith, well, you're going to fold, and then it's going to be much worse. And how much do you have to face? And the answer might be every bit of it.
So on this point, thank you for that.
I'm live.
Really expressed that in a very powerful way.
You know what?
And the last comment that he made really
I can go
was,
live on YouTube.
reminded me of a prophetic saying of Prophet Muhammad. He said, "عجباً لأمر المؤمن." Wondrous is the affair of the believer.
Wondrous is the
affair of the believer. Wondrous is the affair of the believer. إن أمره كله له خير. All of his affair is good. وليس ذاك لأحد إلا للمؤمن. And this is not afforded to anybody except for the true believer.
I think it said 11:15 was like when it was gonna be like the peak or whatever of it, whatever it said. Yeah, but that's gonna be at like the peak of it.
right. That's a hard thing to pull off.
The powerful thing is, and this is what Nietzsche was a great advocate for, ironically, father of postmodernism in a sense, but he was talking about human suffering as a positive thing for the resilience, or building of resilience in a human being. And this goes back to the point of purpose.
Yeah, well, you know what? So here's another thing that psychologists have learned. So imagine that you take a group of people and you subject them to a
Why does it look like that in that camera?
But you set up the experiment so one group has that inflicted on them, let's say, and the other group decides to do it voluntarily, and then you measure as accurately as you can the pattern of physical and psychological response to those two conditions. What you find is that independent of the weight of the load, the attitude transforms the response. And so if you confront something difficult in a spirit of voluntary engagement, a whole different spirit takes hold of you. And you can measure that.
That's exactly what I remember Viktor Frankl saying.
Yes.
He was saying that those in the concentration camp were most likely to survive are in fact those who made meaning out of them.
Well, and Solzhenitsyn said something I think that was even more profound on that front. He said, he left ambiguous issue of whether or not you were more likely to survive if you were a believer, let's say, although he was struck as an atheist by the composure that true religious believers had in the Gulag. But what he did say, more importantly, I would say even, was that if you were a genuine believer, your soul was more likely to survive. And what he meant by that was many people in the Gulag camps became corrupted. And you can think about them as a microcosm of the world. People were under tremendous stress. And one of the temptations was to become a and participate in a system of oppression. And the camps in Russia could not possibly have sustained themselves if the prisoners weren't running them. And that's something to think about with regards to totalitarianism. And Solzhenitsyn did note, and it was transformative to him, that there were people of genuine religious faith who were immobile in their commitment to ethical action, even in the confines of the camp. When faced with something like
It's gotta start like different times for everybody, huh?
not just you die, maybe your family
Or is it the same?
die in misery. And one of the things that transformed Solzhenitsyn and then the world, because his book transformed the world in large part, was his observation that this genuine striving to something like clarity of speech and a higher unity.
You know, maybe there is some people that's disabled or something that can't, come outside to see it. You probably want to see it.
I said that, from a Muslim perspective, the question that we're asked to ask is, bring the evidence.
There's one person in here, I just don't know,
Evidence which should satisfy some kind of probabilistic reasoning.
I don't know where the chat, let's see.
We believe is the final prophet, right? That he was
Oh, it's already up.
Would you be willing to become Muslim?
I wouldn't
There's a bunch of really weird stuff that's supposed to happen today, huh?
The revelation of Muhammad united.
Isn't the Bohemian Grove? What?
So it was
Well,
a
gosh
united
damn.
revelation.
I'm just gonna sit here and hold the phone at the fucking sign, not say any words.
Universally uniting revelation, at least not yet, not now, because
Fuck that Jordan Peterson. Put your headphones in.
why? Well, maybe we didn't understand the revelation.
Is the presupposition when you're saying that unity is the ultimate objective?
Well, not exactly, because then you have the problem of uniformity that you've.
Even the idea of unity itself. I mean, is it?
Well, we talked about. Okay, so
Unity is a great. Just to be clear, I believe that unity is a great objective.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's the all-defining one. For example, if there is an injustice that is so great that this unity is more appropriate, then I can imagine situations where this unity is probably better than unity.
right.
I'm sure you can as well. For example, like in Soviet
That
Union.
would be a false unity.
Exactly. So
That's why you wanted to address the elephant under the curtain right away. We can't have a false peace,
exactly.
and we can't incorporate things we can't yet incorporate.
Yes, and the reason I'm bringing this to your attention is because I feel like it's my duty as a Muslim, especially in the mosque, right, to tell you that as Muslims we believe that the previous dispensations
Oh, there's a comment.
in Judaism
Look at Vippy.
our faith in a sense.
Nice.
In the sense of believing the doctrines and all that kind of thing. Like
Huh.
we obviously don't believe in original sin or the resurrection and
Alicia,
crucifixion, this
Vippy,
kind of thing. We don't believe in any of that. Or the Trinity, of course. But in the sense that we do believe in Jesus Christ, we believe
I was
in all
wondering
the
how that chat
Old
would
Testament
work.
prophets, most of them, if not all of them. Abraham, Moses, Jesus, and so on.
Pops, I
And we
guess.
believe that each prophet was sent with two things: the message, which is to believe and worship in one God,
Hey, look at
and
Vippy
some kind
9.
of evidence to indicate their truthfulness.
I like that name.
With, for example, Moses and Jesus, we know what their miracles are, splitting the sea, and we believe that actually happened historically, right? And we have no qualms with that. We don't have this kind of materialistic viewpoint on the issue. With Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam,
I'm blinding everybody. I'm blinding 4 people.
He had to have an evidence base that would satisfy not just the eyes. In other words, it wouldn't be just something that could be witnessed. It would be something that can be interrogated and scrutinized for all times and places. So it would be an auditory revelation. In this case, it's the
2
Quran. The
people.
Quran is a
Blinding
recitation.
2 people.
So the central message of the Quran is Tawheed.
I can't really see it.
Worshipping one God and believing in one God, as we mentioned.
Should I get out?
There is an attempt
Hey, Danny.
to challenge, for example, that's something called the falsification test or the inimitability
I
test.
like your name too.
The Quran says, for example, they try and find a contradiction within the Quran. Had it been from other than God, لَوَجَدُوا فِيهِ اخْتِلَافًا.
Where are you guys at?
This inimitability challenge is to produce something as sophisticated as it in terms of the linguistic composition as well as the structural component. This is very interesting because now even Western academics like Angela
I'm gonna get out.
and others have said that this challenge has not been met. So a German Orientalist, she's recently said this. So this is another thing. Then you have a range of prophecies, for example, like if you look at Deuteronomy chapter 18, verse 21, it's mentioned in the Bible that one of the marks of a true prophet is that, or a false prophet is that when they talk about the future, they will be false. Well, the Quran makes very specific prophecies about the future. So example, in chapter 30, verse 2 to 3.
It's supposed to be right now. It said it was from 10:03 to like noon or something like that. But I think it's probably already started. It's just I can't really see it yet. I think it started a little bit. Is that really bright for you guys? What time is it supposed to start for you guys? Where are y'all at? This is in San Diego, California. It is. I wonder if I should I wonder if I should take it off of it until it actually really starts. It says it's supposed to have started. I know you're not supposed to look right at it, but I think a phone, if you look at it through a phone, it might be different. I don't think it's so bad. Can you guys see it do anything yet? In the video? I can't see anything in real life. It's really bright. Oh, Germany. Yeah, I didn't even look to see if it was going to be seen in Germany. Wow, Germany. That's so cool. You're lucky to live there. Just be glad you don't live in America. It's a shit show over here. Everybody thinks they're trans. I don't know. I'm gonna keep holding it on here. Sit back down. I'm sitting in my car. You know if it can be seen in Germany? Or is it just here? I don't know. It's not doing nothing.
That's something to think about, right? Well, are you a shining example of the Muslim faith? Well, how hard do you shine?
You say you are morally obligated to do remarkable things. Why?
They're rude?
Well, I think partly because life is so difficult.
They're rude here too.
That unless you give it everything you have, the chances are very high that it will embitter you, and then you'll be a force for darkness and not good. And so, the fact that life is short and can be brutal can terrify you into hiding and avoiding. But it can also, you can flip that on its head and understand that since you're all in anyways, you might as well take the risks that are adventurous. And that's a very good thing.
I swear that was up there a second ago.
And what is also useful to understand in that manner is that there isn't anything more adventurous than the truth. This is something that took me a long time to figure out. Well, you can craft your words to get what you want. And people do that all the time.
Oh,
They
that's
craft their
cool.
words so they can avoid taking responsibility for things
Look at
they
the
should
cloud
take
over there. That looks cool.
responsibility for. They can craft their words to gain an advantage that they really don't deserve. That's what you do when you manipulate.
Oh, really? They do?
The problem with that, you might say, well, why not do that if I can get what I want? And
That's not fair.
You aren't necessarily the best judge of what you need. And it's easy to be deluded in what you want. That's the sort of delusions that people chase.
That's not fair. That's not right.
If you decide instead that you're going to just say what you believe to be true, you have to let go of the consequences. And you might think, well, I don't want to
They're
let
just
go of the
gonna come there and
consequences
cause
because I want
problems.
to
They should
control what's
leave.
going on. But what you miss then is
Foreigners.
adventure, because if you don't control what's going on, you don't know what the hell's going to happen. And maybe that's exciting, and actually there's no doubt about it. And then you have the additional advantage if you're attempting to say what you believe to be true and attempting to act in the manner that you think is most appropriate. That's genuinely you, and you have the force of reality behind you. Obviously, that's what you have if you're trying to say live in the truth, is you have the force of reality behind you. That seems like
Is
a
that
good
the only
deal,
thing people can
and you
think
have the
of when they think
reality
of
and the
Germany?
adventure. So why is that a moral obligation? Well, if you hide and you don't let what's inside
Yeah,
of you
there
out, and
is.
you don't bring into the world what you could bring,
There's
and you
really no
become
sense in it, huh?
cynical and bitter, you will start doing very dark things. So you'll start, not only will you not add to the world what you could add, but you will start being
At
jealous
least you guys
of the
don't have
people
Joe
who
Biden
are
running
competent
things.
and doing well and work to destroy them. So that's the pathway to hell, really. So
One of the trends that I've been railing against most recently has been cynicism. There's this
Do you guys have like a
pervasive
president
belief
there or something? Or is it, what is it?
everything is
The
terrible
president,
and
right?
it can't get better.
yeah,
And the people who believe that it can improve are dumb and delusional
Yeah.
and the problem. And I don't know where it comes from. I don't
well,
like
it's
it.
the beginning of wisdom. Cynicism. This is part of the reason
Yeah,
why it's hard
U.S.
to
has a
combat.
terrible history too.
No,
But
because people
yeah, I
start
know
out
what you mean. You
naive.
guys are,
Naive people are optimistic.
yeah.
But not really. They're just naive. And naive people have no idea that there's, say, malevolence in the world.
You know, with like
They have no
slaves and
idea that
everything.
there's malevolence in their own heart. They're sheltered and dependent. And when that breaks, it often breaks into
Oh, really?
cynicism. And so cynicism is actually an improvement.
Okay.
The veils have fallen from your eyes.
Exactly. The problem with cynicism
That's
is
interesting. I didn't know
especially
that.
that's allied with a
I
kind of
didn't know that was
arrogance,
his
is that
name.
you can end there, and that's a big
Is he
mistake.
good?
So
Is he
then the
nice?
question becomes, well, once you've been bitten hard and you're no longer naive, well, that is very hard on your optimism, let's say. So then the question is, how do you restore that without reverting to the naivety, which you can't do anyways without blinding yourself once you've been bitten. And the answer to that is you substitute courage for naivety, and you regain your optimism as a moral imperative, right? So one of the things you might ask yourself is, well, if the future is likely to be catastrophic in a variety of different ways, which is definitely the case, both socially and
Yeah,
personally,
really.
then what attitude should you
May
bring
even
to
be
bear on
worse.
that? And the answer
They're
might be,
about the
well,
same.
if you were courageous and faithful, and I can explain what that means, then you would conduct yourself in a manner that met
Oh,
the future
really?
head on, with the presumption that you can manage it. And this is the presumption we should bring to bear politically. No, these
I think a lot of people, I think they just
people
cheat
are
their way
using
into the
fear
top.
to garner power point to the various apocalypses that might
I know
be
for
befall
sure
us.
Joe Biden cheated.
And it's difficult to counter them because the future is always an apocalyptic horizon. Like everything can fall
Nobody
apart.
voted for him. Nobody.
Has before and might well again and will in fact.
There
in
was
your
literally
lives as
like
you
dead
age and
people
die.
that was voting.
So
They found
it's
dead
very easy to
people's
conjure
names
up
in
an
the
apocalypse.
voter thing. Like
Then the question
tons of them.
becomes, the
Hundred
question becomes
thousands.
not, is that apocalypse potentially real? Because the answer to that is yes, but what attitude should you have towards that? Naive, that's not good. Cynical, that's better, but it's still not good. It's
Oh,
another form of hell, and it also
see.
tends to make the potential
I'll sub to
apocalypses
you
more
too.
likely.
Thank you.
Well, so what do you have when you move beyond cynicism? And what you have when you move beyond cynicism is wisdom. And that's not naive, it's courageous. One of the things that religious people have done relatively badly, especially in recent years, is they've failed to delineate the relationship between faith and courage. You know, people like Dawkins and the new atheists, they point to faith and they describe it as something like belief in foolish superstitions. But that isn't really what faith in the deepest sense means. It means that you are willing to act out the proposition that you can ride the wave, no matter how big it becomes. And that we can all do that together, especially if we do that.
Is that
with
even
goodwill.
pointed to it anymore?
And
Because I
think
feel like it moved.
That's a much more, it's a much much more appropriate way to confront the future, and it's also the proper medication for cynicism. Now, the other thing the cynics see, the other thing about cynicism that's interesting too, is that cynics aren't cynical enough about their own
Yeah, they
cynicism.
found a lot of dead people that, you know, they use their names for like fake votes.
Validity of your own cynicism. It's like, what makes
There
you
was
so
like
smart?
hundreds of
What
thousands
makes
of
you
them.
the judge of being? And the Columbine
Plus,
kids
like
were yeah,
during
you know,
the
and
vote,
decided
they
that
stopped the vote,
existence
which is like the
itself
first time it's ever happened in
unsustainable
history.
given
And
its
then
cruelty, and
when they
that the
stopped
proper
it,
response was to
Joe Biden's vote
a
started
giant
going
middle
way
finger
up,
to man,
just really fast.
men
Like
and
it was
God,
obviously,
right? Well, here's a way of being cynical
you know,
about cynicism.
rigged.
How does your cynicism let you off the hook? Right? How does your cynicism justify your
Everybody
desire
hated
to
Joe
avoid
Biden. Like
necessary responsibility
his
and
rallies,
to
there would be
pursue
like
your
2
own
people there,
short-term
and then
hedonic
like
gains?
Trump's, there would
It's
be,
like,
they
why are
looked
you
like rock
cynical about your
concerts.
own doubt? And that's another place where
We
wisdom
literally could not
begins.
vote him in.
It's like so that's 2, right?
He's ruined everything. We've had open
Cynicism
borders for
means
4
naivety, but it's
years.
not the ultimate
There's like
destination. And
20
you should
million
be cynical enough to question the moral validity of
Mexican
your
people
own,
that have came here.
your own
There's a lot of the
resentment, your
cartel
own,
here now because of
you say,
him.
your own turning away from
There's
the
no
world.
country in the
When did I
world
see
that
it?
has open
Given that we
borders
don't
like
know
that.
the future, given that much of our motivations are
He's ruined
invisible to
everything.
us, we're not a crystal pond that we can see into. You have to have some form of delusion about what's going to happen in the future. You're trying your best to see the way that it's going to be, but given that the glass could be half empty or half full, why not have a delusion that's going to be useful to you? One of hope, even in the face and the understanding that things might be
You know, it
difficult,
says
that
in
there's
our
going to be
Constitution that if they,
There was a line of social psychology that pursued
if your
that
government has
argument for
open
quite a while.
borders, that it's the citizens' duty to overthrow the government and have new government, but nobody's doing anything about it.
Fundamental way that people staved off despair and bolstered their self-esteem, but I don't think
Yeah, everybody knows he
we
cheated.
need to separate out the distinction.
I just
between
can't believe nobody's
fantasy
doing
and
anything
delusion.
about it.
You do have a fantasy about the future. You have to, because like you said, it's not structured. So you have to provisionally map the future. That's what a plan is. That's what a strategy is. Right. But that doesn't make it a delusion. Like, it
Yeah.
becomes a delusion when the map bears no relationship to the underlying territory. So if you have a strategy for the future, maybe let's say that your strategy for the future, just for the sake of argument, is that you have 5 million YouTube subscribers in 3 years. Well, you have no evidence of the strict sort that that's how it's going to be, because anything could happen between now and 3 years from now.
Really?
But there's
I think-
no reason to call that a delusion.
I think that's like
It's
dust.
one,
Here.
it's one hypothetically possible.
Is that, what about now? Is that too bright?
And then you can make the sacrifices necessary to bring that about. So even though
I
it's
think
a
that's too
fantasy
bright.
because it maps something that isn't there, it's not a delusion. It's a delusion when you're ignoring elements of your own experience that would inform your fantasy more effectively. You're ignoring them so that you can live in a positive representation of the future.
They said it was supposed to start like an hour ago, dude.
One of my favorite ideas I learned over the last couple of years is the inner citadel from Isaiah Berlin. Do you know this? So, Isaiah Berlin says, when the natural road toward human fulfillment is blocked, human beings retreat into themselves, become involved in themselves, and try to create inwardly that world which some evil favourite has denied them externally. It's a delusion often. If you cannot obtain from the world that which you really desire, you must teach yourself not to want it.
Right?
If you cannot get what you want, you must teach yourself
There.
to want what you can get. This is a very frequent form of spiritual retreat and depth into a kind of inner citadel in which you lock yourself up against all of the fearful ills of the world. Mutual friend Rob Henderson explained it in a simple way.
It has to do with my phone, sure, but like,
And if you can't, then you cut the leg off and denounce that the desire for legs is misguided. And
I
it's
know,
misogyny.
right?
And I think that we see
I think
this
so.
everywhere.
Okay, so
whoops.
imagine that you lay out a plan and it
Dang
meets
it.
with an
I'm not meaning to do
nose
that.
slabs out from underneath the plan. Okay, now you
What is
retreat.
that?
Okay, now you have an option. You're retreating, and one option
My
is to
flash is not
construct a
on.
moment fantasy where you're taking revenge on those who wronged you and getting what you want. That's a pathway to madness. So often people who develop serious delusions do develop
Oh,
transitory fantasies, and then they start to dwell in them, and often for hundreds
it's
of
gonna
hours.
happen.
So, the kids again who showed up at the
Let's see, what
Columbine High
time is
School,
it?
they dwelled
52.
in a fantasy world for hundreds of hours before they undertook their dreadful actions, right? But you can also flip back into yourself, let's say, and you can. This is like confession and atonement. That's the proper way to think about it. Is you can think about what it is that you did wrong or insufficiently.
Have you ever seen one before?
Of your plan. Right, so that's the first investigation. I made some sacrifices. I attempted to bring about a particular form of the future. It didn't happen. Okay, why? Well, the world is set against me, and the
Why is it
cosmos
not?
is evil, and there's no God.
It's,
and
oh,
there
it seems
is
to be getting darker. A little darker.
Cloud probably over
No, there's no clouds over it.
there. Isn't?
No. Dude, I think we need those, you notice it's getting darker? It's definitely darker. Like, you can't see it in the phone when it's darker. Maybe we need those glasses to see it. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. It's definitely, it looks weird out here. It looks like darker. You see it? Like, look around.
Maybe I'm looking in the wrong place. Maybe I have to look somewhere else. And you can open yourself up to a revelation.
Can't see it in the phone. It just looks regular, but it does look darker.
So Christ tells his followers that if they knock, the door will open. If they ask, they'll receive. And if they seek, they'll find. And so it sounds magical.
This person's never seen one before. They were so excited to see it.
But that's not a wise interpretation of that saying. The proper interpretation is something more like a recognition of the way thought works. So imagine your plans didn't work out. Okay, now you sit down and you say to yourself, I'd like to know, even if the world was conspiring
See how it looks like darker out here?
was
But there's no clouds over it.
the fault of external occurrences than other people. What did I do that wasn't as good as it could have been? And where did I fail to look?
Oh, yeah.
The probability of my
Oh, I
failure
remember
was
that
higher.
one.
Now,
I think I was
to ask
in
that question,
5th grade.
you have to want the answer. That's what it means to knock. Or
It was
to
really
ask or to
cool.
seek.
Everything got
This is
really
no
dark,
joke.
like
It's
completely
you have
dark
to wanna
at
know.
like noon.
And it's a very painful thing to do because, especially if you had given it your all,
There was another one in 2016, but I think
and you
2016.
have reason to be bitter.
2017.
Was it 2017?
Going to be searching for the errors that you still made, and discovering your own errors is always extremely painful, right? Especially if they're errors that you're in love with. And so you
It's
have to
getting
be willing to
darker. Do you
strip
see it?
yourself down.
Like, look around. It looks weird.
It's fundamental. And then the advantage is, this is why it's so useful to listen to people. You might find out where you're stupid, and then you can stop being stupid. And so one of the reasons you confess your sins, let's say, is because you want to discover where you're insufficient. Now, it's painful. You know, it's painful to encounter an impediment
Come on.
in the form of someone else's opinion that might show you where you're blind and ignorant, or willfully blind even. But the advantage to that is you can rectify the error, and then as you move forward, you're stronger. You know, one of the things I taught my kids, and I hope at least
Let's see
somewhat
what time it
successfully,
is.
was
10:55.
you should always ask a stupid question. And that doesn't mean the sort of question that someone who wasn't paying attention would ask. If you're listening to someone and you don't understand
Yeah. See? It
you
is.
reveal that. You're revealing your ignorance. You know, and maybe you're in a room full of people and you think you're the only person stupid enough to not get it, which is very rarely the case, by the way. The thing is, though, if you reveal that ignorance to yourself and to the other person, they can rectify it. And if you do
I'm not
that
wearing
1,000 times,
glasses.
you're not ignorant anymore. And this is a real pathway to success too. You see, and you do this because you ask real questions in your podcast, and Rogan does this. Rogan's always trying to be a little smarter than he already is. And then that works. Iterated, like if you ask 1,000 dumb questions and you listen to the answer, then you know 1,000 things, some of them deeply you didn't know before. So that's the advantage to searching your soul, let's say, for unrequited sins and attempting to atone. That's not a delusion, right? It's an attempt to set yourself right. It's the opposite of the delusion, even though there can be a
that, right?
Happiness, as far as I can see,
There.
sits in the gap
What
between
is that?
your expectations and reality. But the problem here is that people who have high standards often end up feeling a lack, right? How can people who strive like this avoid feeling despondent or falling short of their own high standards? I've heard you talk about the statue of David saying something like, "You are not all that you could be." And as soon as you posit an ideal, you begin to compare yourself to that ideal. So,
Well, Martha, that's a good question. An ideal is also a challenge because an ideal is something against which you are sure. And that might be something
Through the toes.
What do I mean by lower the ideal? Well, if you're comparing yourself to someone, or even to a future self, and the
Put your
gap
grippers
is so
away.
painful that it paralyzes you, then you've created a dragon that you don't have the tools to master. And so what you have to do is you have to scale the dragon.
Am I crazy or is it getting darker?
And you want to scale the dragon down the size until it's the size that you are willing to move toward, however small that is. Now, you know, if you're here and your ideal is here and that gap is unbearable, then you reduce the gap and you reduce the gap. And you're going to have to do that anyways because you're not going to move from where you are to perfect in one fell swoop, right? There's going to be incremental steps. So you have to fill in that hierarchy of progression with a high enough resolution representation so that you can start to move forward. And then you should be not just, there's another question that is very interesting in math. Math is amazing to those who have everything you cannot get from those who have nothing. Everything that you take.
Is it doing anything where you are right now?
Yes. Moving up, you go like this. That's pretty nice. That's a lot better than this. Like when you're going down, you go like that, right? It's like downhill cliff. Okay. So you want to avoid the downhill path. Well, if the
Where are you guys at? I mean, I know where Danny is, but
exponential, it's
I wonder if it's doing anything where you guys are.
It doesn't matter how big the first steps you take uphill are, even if they're trivial, even if they're shameful in their size, because you're so useless. That if you're disciplined in that,
See how it looks darker?
you'll speed up extraordinarily rapidly. And so that's the good news, you might say, is that you can take very small steps, even ones that might be shameful in their size, and you have to admit that to yourself. But once you get the ball rolling, it doesn't roll in a linear fashion, it's a geometric fashion. And this is a really good thing to know because it can take the sting
I wish
out
my
of
mom would have got a video.
realization of your own stupidity. It's like,
She's gonna see
everybody has their weak
like almost all of like completely covered.
things they're embarrassed about. When I
She
first started
is.
going to the gym, I was like, how old was I? 1985, 23. And I think I weighed 135 pounds and I was 6'1". Very, very thin. I had right 27-inch waist, something like that. I smoked like that. I drank too much, like I wasn't in good shape. The first intense overnight in the gym, I went to the exercise class. So I did a semester of that, got myself in somewhat better shape, and then I started to go to the gym to work out, to lift weights. And that was also rough because, you know, I'd be underneath the bloody bench press trying to lift 75 pounds off the
It's definitely
rests.
darker.
And, you know, some muscle-headed bastard would
Look how
come over
dark
tell
it
me how
got.
to do it. It's like, yeah, thank you, but, you know, it's embarrassing, and lots of times people won't do things like go to the gym because they're so embarrassed about how they look and what sort of
See
shape
how dark it is?
it's a pain to start at the bottom, but you start at the bottom where you're weak. And if you want to rectify what's weak, you have to accept the fact that you're at the bottom and that the first steps are going to be painful. You know, it took me about 3 years, but I stopped smoking. And
dark.
I got a lot more physically confident and a lot more.
The sky's really dark, actually.
Insufficiency to your own shame. Now, if the gap between you and your ideal is so great that it paralyzes you and shrinks.
Get back to talking to John in 1 minute, but first I need to tell you about Maui Nui Venison. Maui Nui Venison is the most impeccable vintage blend you have. The impetus to sit down and listen to me and you. And before I started my podcast, I listened to before going to compare.
Right, so you could say that the despondency is actually is in proportion to the false pride. Now, I wrote a chapter in, I think, my first book, which was compare yourself to who you are today,
Okay,
not to
bye,
who
Danny.
someone else is.
Thank you for
Sorry,
stopping.
I mangled that to some degree, but you get the point. The proper
Bye.
comparison for you is you yesterday, because you can make. First of all, you're the only control group that's appropriate to you, because you have a certain set of talents and possibilities and limitations and tragedies that are truly unique to you. And so you might be comparing yourself to someone else on some dimension, but it's not a reasonable comparison, because you don't know what talents they were blessed with, and you also don't know what opportunities they had that you didn't, etc. It's just not a reasonable comparison. It's a lot better to think about the way you are willing to think about maybe somewhat better, some dimension. And the positive thing about that is the answer is almost always yes. Now you can orient that transformation towards some stellar target, and that's a reasonable thing to do, but that doesn't exactly mean that you should compare yourself to that target. Aiming at something and comparing yourself to it are not exactly the same thing. Plus, your bloody comparison is also a delusion. You know, that's another thing that you have to understand, is that you look at the person you're jealous of, and really what you're doing is you're looking through a very narrow aperture at a very thin slice of their life. You're looking at the thin slice of their life that's turning out the best, but you're also looking at a thin slice of their life that's marketed to be the best, right? And you have no idea what the horror of that person's life might be in its totality. And you have no idea if the deal was, say you wanted to be Russell Brand. There's a good example. You wanted to be Russell Brand. You wanted to be as charismatic and as famous as he is. Well, your real wish is that you get to have everything Russell Brand has, but none of his problems. Oh, come
See how
on.
it got darker?
I mean, it's no wonder that a vision like that would make you despondent, because it's naive, it's
Dude, I
resentful,
swear it's
it's
darker.
jealous,
You
it's
just
bitter,
can't see it. You
it's
can't tell the phone.
unreasonable. You have to take the good with the bad. You have to take the bad with the good. And people rarely think about that when they're thinking about, the famous people they think they'd like to be.
That
There was
was
a recent
cool.
interview with Elon Musk where he said something, "My mind is a storm. I don't think most people
How weird is it that that's even up there at all? It's so weird.
maybe, but they don't. They don't know. They don't understand." What do you think of that? Elon smaller people probably look up to and admire and aspire to be.
One of the downsides to
What if there's a whole bunch of people like watching it somewhere and then a big cloud goes over it? Yeah, we're supposed to lose internet. Like the whole grid's supposed to go out for a few hours, so use my hotspot. Here. Like that's a confirmed actual thing. It's supposed to go out. I can't believe mine's even going, to be honest. Internet's supposed to go out. Bohemian Grove's supposed to sacrifice like 8 kids.
It's not working.
Definitely darker. My hotspot's not working? Bullshit. It's on. What is it saying? There's no way. If the like grid went out, then I guess fucking maybe it wouldn't work. I don't know. Is it working now? There's a bunch of weird stuff supposed to happen today. I've been hearing about it for months. What time is it? Let's see. 11:07. Everything's definitely darker down here. Way darker. Remember the sun was like blaring in our face? Right here? Earlier? It's not doing that anymore. It was just like blaring. That last one was really cool. It covered the, you could watch it cover the sun. It looked like the moon was out at like noon. It looked cool. It's definitely a whole lot darker. Well, either way, people get to see what it looked like in San Diego at least. This is what it looked like in San Diego. Is it working? No? Tell me so I can shut it off if it's not working. I think it is my hotspot.
Yeah.
It's jealous, it's bitter, and it's unreasonable. You have to take the good with the bad.
Can you guys see it where you are? Is it doing anything?
Rarely think about that when they're thinking about, you know, the famous people they think they like to be.
It's clouds
There was a
cool.
recent interview with Elon Musk.
It got colder too. It's colder.
My mind is a storm. I don't think most people would want to be me. Right? They may think they would want to be me, but they don't. They don't know. They don't understand. What do you think about Elon someone that you look up to and admire and aspire to be?
One of the downsides to high-level genius is you might describe it as atrophy. So,
The wind started blowing. Lost internet.
this is a test of something called verbal fluency. Verbal fluency is associated with creativity. So
Is it?
it's a simple verbal fluency test. Write down as many four-letter words as
Yeah,
you
it's
can.
dim here too. It's dim in Escondido.
Okay, that's pretty constrained. 4 letters in T. Or write down as many words as you can in 3 minutes to begin with S.
Is
That's
that
less
where you
constrained.
are? You're like so close to me.
There's quite a powerful correlation between the sheer number of words that you produce and your lifetime creative achievement, right? Especially in the artistic and verbal domains. That's different than vocabulary. Vocabulary is how many words you understand.
What's that cloud move?
Fluency is how many words you can produce in a given amount of time. Yes. Well, people vary to a degree that you can hardly imagine. So some people, if you get them to do the 4-letter test in 3 minutes, they'll write down like 12 words. And some will write down 150. And the ones who are writing down 150, their minds are
I
going.
want it to do what it did.
They're just thinking 5 times as fast as
Next to Elf.
without any
Ooh,
remission whatsoever. And when that gets completely out of
that sounds like a cool place.
if someone is manic,
Elfin Forest.
nothing fun about
I want to go there.
where maniac comes from. And someone who's manic has 1,000 different plans which they're hyper enthusiastic about. They'll spend every second.
What's the difference between Escondido and San Bernardino? Which one's further?
That's the outer limit of pathology on the creative front. And someone like Musk, who's
I think Escondido's further.
that's what he's contending with.
As Elfin.
Now, I'm not saying that he's manic, I'm trying to say no signs of that, but someone that creative
Oh,
is
okay.
or you just see someone like Ben Shapiro. I mean, it's very interesting to talk to him.
No way, really?
Russell Brand is the same way. Shapiro speaks, I think, more rapidly than anyone I ever met.
Now I want to go even more.
You see very clearly that he's probably thinking 5 times that fast. And that's a whole
Why don't we go out there one night with a camera?
meeting, which was my first
See what we can find.
production. I was obsessed with it. So I was
We should do that, make a video.
and then I was thinking about the material, like
I would absolutely do that.
And the thoughts came way faster than thinking. They probably came about as fast as I can read. I can read about 1,200 words a minute if the material is overwhelmingly dense.
I love
So
hot
it was
air
just
balloons.
non-stop thought for 16 hours a day. That's part of the reason I started this.
Yes.
Because if I was lifting heavy enough,
We need to do that. Do you know how fun that would be?
it was also one of the reasons that I prayed. Because that was another thing that had shut me.
Dude, I'm scared to death of the woods. There's something I seen in the woods a few years ago in Tennessee. It's the only thing I've ever seen that was like really weird. It was like it was nighttime, it was blacker than the night. It had these like huge wings, and it was at my car door, like making this horrible sound, like yeah, thought I was gonna die, man.
Like, Musk isn't just a creative genius, he's also an extremely conscientious engineer.
We should do that.
Engineers, they have very interesting
Why don't we do that?
engineers because my brother-in-law's a great engineer, and when he understands something, Jim, when he understands something, he understands how to build it out of atoms, right? Like, he understands it
Let me see.
at every single
I wonder
level.
if I can.
Musk appears to me to be someone
I
who is
wonder if I
a rare
can.
combination of
What's
hyper-creative
this button do?
but also hyper-conscientious. I know it works.
What's this do?
Yeah, does that sort of hypertrophied executive function help to wrangle some of the diffuse creative energy? Well, we're going to put it into this one thing at least for a while, and then we'll move on to another thing.
Yes, definitely. Eric Weinstein's a good example of someone. I hope Eric isn't annoyed by this, but Eric is unbelievably creative, but he's not.
I think that's all it's gonna do. I don't think it's gonna be like it was in
And I think he
2017 or whenever, because
he's
I think I'm in just the wrong spot.
been working with Peter Thiel for quite a long time.
You can see it in Tennessee.
Right, and Eric's an extremely interesting person. Musk is hyper creative, and as far as I can tell, hyper conscientious. And the conscientiousness does focus.
That sucks, man.
And that lots of people who are creative aren't conscientious. Well, it's rare. Like,
I mean, it got darker,
there's no correlation between
but you can't like see anything.
Okay, so if you're 1 in 1,000, if you're
Oh
the
well,
most
at least
creative
people know what it
person
looked like here.
conscientious person in 1,000, you're 1 person in a million.
Timu, why don't we
Musk
do
is
that?
probably more like 1 person in 100 million, right? Something like that, maybe more, or maybe a billion, right? Maybe.
Oh no way, really?
Yeah, it's interesting to consider the changes.
Dude, I believe in that kind of stuff.
As their platforms, as the scrutiny around them continues to increase. Obviously, this has been a journey for you.
I would absolutely do that.
Maybe approaching
I
10
know,
years
it's
now.
a helicopter.
Was it 2006? Was that
Out of
16?
nowhere.
2016.
2016, yeah, sorry. How have you found
Hey, Danny. Aw. It got darker down here. It's like,
surveillance and the federation?
I know, I don't see it either. Oh, I see it now. Helicopter?
Now, the first thing that changed, I think, was that I saw
I don't see it.
a scale that I hadn't really seen before. I had worked as a clinician for a long time, and I worked with, say, 20 people.
I'm glad you're back, Danny.
I was always in the realm of difficult existential problems, wrestling with my clients' problems alongside them, and I like that.
I think I'm in the wrong spot.
Research.
You could see it last year, not last year, you could see it in 2017 really good in Tennessee.
In some ways, was
Like, it was so cool, it covered the whole thing.
I have a lot of structure around that
I mean, it did get darker.
function, despite the fact that, I was neck deep in 20 people's serious problems at one time of night.
Yeah, I will absolutely look into that. I believe them.
Larger scale,
Camp Pendleton, I'll watch that. Yeah, definitely. I'll do it next.
realization really hit me. I didn't know how deep the demoralization in our culture had become. And I think that was especially obvious to me at that point.
Dude, this person in the chat,
Looks like
there's haunted woods in Escondido, right?
possibly young
Why don't we go out there with a camera and night vision?
for whatever reason, most of the people was
You gonna go?
meaningless to begin with. Young men, I think it was probably because most of them
We're gonna go.
people on YouTube are young men. And so it was shocking and brutal to see how much demoralization.
It's hard to like get a hold of people on here though. You have to like.
widely spread.
There's no like messaging or anything like that.
Other than that, and that was a real shock. It was very hard on me, I would say. Everything else about it.
Oh really? You did?
Ridiculously interesting.
I'm wondering what everybody else is seeing.
Unbelievable wealth of opportunity. I'd be a fool to be anything but abjectly grateful. The misery that I saw wasn't shocking. It was part of
How did that impact
Oh well.
change the way things
Like I said, at least people know what it looked like here, you know? I'm sure there's going to be plenty of videos you can see of people that's recorded, you know, that was in the right spot. I'm sure you'll be able to see it, Danny.
offer people an
I'm sure there's going to be tons of videos up.
I could see that so many people were dying psychologically or actually.
Timo, I'm going to go to your channel and
And so
leave you a comment on your latest video, okay?
position to provide that
I don't think it's going to do much of anything. I'm going to get off here.
necessary
Thank you guys for stopping by. I'm gonna,
constantly.
I think get off here because
Seems to. Good.
it's 11:20 almost. So, it's a solar eclipse.
In our first tour, a lot of the people who came to the
Yeah, type
Harsh.
like in like an hour or so. Type in solar eclipse 2024, and oh, I see.
edges, and now
Okay. Yeah, so yeah, just type in YouTube, in like an hour, type in SOLAR,
most of the guys
ECLIPSE, solar eclipse, ECLIPSE, and 2024, and I guarantee you'll find like people that were in the right spot where it completely covered the whole sun. I think I'm just in the wrong spot.
aggravated controversy,
But it did get darker. I mean, it definitely got darker.
it's
So.
just in the online world now. Touches
Alright, I'm gonna sub to all you guys. Thank you again. I'm gonna get off here.
Yeah, which is, mostly just an annoyance and a preposterous annoyance, and preposterous, expensive, and time-consuming annoyance.
How do we end
Apart from
this?
that,
I don't know how to
everything
end
that's
it.
happened around me has been positive. That's a strange thing, too. Positive, it had such an
I wonder if I could see it in different filters. Let's see.
You'd think
No,
it's hard to
it's
imagine
not really doing
being in a
nothing, is it?
situation where things are so
Gosh
positive.
dang, we don't want that.
But I am
Hell,
in
we don't want that
situation.
either.
It's quite something to contend with. I was fortunate, I suppose, to some degree that it didn't happen to me till I was old.
Yeah, none of these are
Never really got accustomed to it.
really changing anything.
about this, observing what's happened to you.
Wow,
and
okay.
Einstein
None of these
is
are
a
really
good
doing
example of
anything.
this too. We often hear the perils of getting fake too.
Okay.
Macaulay Culkin's
How do we end this?
Britney Spears of the world, individuals who don't have any sense of identity being thrust into a non-representative experience of the world, and they're completely unmoored. But I think that there's an equally interesting question to ask, okay, and what happens if you think you know who you are? If you've spent decades, 5 decades, 6 decades of your life understanding your place, your status, the trajectory that you're
I did you
on,
guys as moderators.
you get ripped away from all of the areas of reference, all of the way markers that you thought you knew.
Trying to do
Just
something
floating in the
here.
air. I imagine that could be even more disquieting in some ways.
Well,
Okay.
when everything blew up around me, to be